Good morning, everyone. So we are looking at evaluating piecewise functions. Okay, so you watched a video and you've done an assignment on how to evaluate them graphically, but also too you didn't see anything about what a piecewise function looks like. Okay, so if you look here, and I've just copied the problem here from here. Okay, this is what a piecewise function looks like. Okay, and it actually its name, the y's, take out the y's, okay? It's a piece function. So what it is that I have pieces. So this is one part of my picture, okay? And this is the second part of my picture, okay? Now, what we're going to be looking at is just evaluating them, okay? And then the next day after we've done this, you've evaluated them graphically, you've evaluated them algebraically, then we're going to look at um, how would we graph them ourselves, okay? So how would I graph this, okay? One, by hand in terms of not using Desmos to just do all the work and match pictures, but what does it actually mean to graph these individually, okay? What we're going to look at is how do I evaluate this? Okay. And we are going to go back to Desmos, but I do want to show you one problem by hand. Okay. All right. So we've got this thing right here that's called a restriction. Okay. So this is a restriction. And what it's telling me is that when x is less than 1, okay, so when they tell you, I want you to evaluate the problem, I want you to plug in a value. If that value is less than 1, they want you to use that function, okay? Then when x is greater than 4, okay, they want you to use this function, okay? So I'm just going to draw a number line really quickly. So if I put 1 here, and I put 4 here. Okay, so when I am open circle and I am less than 1, so any number over here, okay, they want me to use the function negative x plus 5. And then if I go over here at x greater than 4, and they pick a number, they want me to use parentheses negative x minus 7 squared. Okay. Now what happens is that we have this gap right here of there's values in between, because think about a number line. 2 is right here, 3 is right here. Okay? So any values that they pick, they don't give me a function to evaluate at. So this one actually is super easy, because if they want us to evaluate when x equals 2, because that's what it's asking me, when x equals 2, well, there's no function above me for me to plug it in. So in this case, my answer over here would be undefined. Okay, and I'll hit submit in just a minute. Okay, but let's look at what happens if I were to give you some actual numbers. What would I do? So if I were to say find f of negative 3, okay, well, you have to think about where negative 3 is on your number line, okay? Negative 3 would be over here, so then I would use negative x minus 5. So I would take negative x minus 5, and I would replace that x with a negative 3. Now, this is where evaluating by hand, you have to be really, really careful. So I have to bring down that negative sign, because I only replaced x with negative 3. I didn't replace negative x. Bring down that minus 5. All right, negative times a negative, so that would become 3 minus 5. So my answer would be negative 2. So f of negative 3 would be negative 2. Okay. All right, so let's try a different value. So if I were to say find f of 6, okay. All right. So I would look here on my number line, okay, and you wouldn't have to draw this if you could just imagine it in your head, okay. All right, they want to know what happens when x equals 6. So x equals 6. Well, 6 is over here on the number line, so that means I'm going to plug it into this equation right here. So negative x minus 7 squared. So I'm going to take my x and I'm going to replace it with 6. And I'm going to bring down the rest of the equation. So negative parentheses minus 7 squared. So the parentheses, 6 minus 7 is negative 1 squared. All right, negative 1 squared, remember that's negative 1 times negative 1, which is 1. Bring down the negative sign. Okay, so that negative 1 times negative 1 became positive 1, and then that negative sign, that's why it's back to negative 1. Okay, so f of 6 would be negative 1. Okay, all right, now here's the thing about that. Okay, I don't want to do all this work every single time if Desmos is going to do the work for me. Okay, so if I submit my answer, yes, right. Okay, and they use some words there about domain and range. Okay, and we'll come back to that. Okay, here's the graph. So that's really nice of them too, for them to provide you with that graph to kind of show you right there again, too. Okay, there's that blank space. Okay, so it's undefined. Okay, all right, so now let me bring over here. Okay, let's bring up Desmos. Okay, and let's do a new problem. Okay, so how do I type this in? Okay, all right, so it says for x does not equal negative 1, okay, and then negative 4 for x equals negative 1. Okay, all right, that one's going to be a little interesting to type in, but we can do it. All right, so negative parentheses x plus 2 and then exponent squared. Okay, and then plus 3. All right. Now, I'm trying to think how I want to do this one. Okay, because I think it's better for you just to see what this means. Okay, all right, and then negative 4. Let me see if I can make the restriction for x equals negative 1. Yeah, see, it doesn't want to do the restriction on this one, and that's okay. Okay, so here's our parabola. Okay, so we're looking right here, and we've got our parabola. Okay, this negative x plus 2 squared plus 3, and it says for x does not equal negative 1. All right, so when I go over here to negative 1, okay, right here, okay, you can't see it, but it's there, I promise. Okay, well, no, it's not there on Desmos, but this is what you have to imagine in your head. Okay, so when I go here, it says here for x does not equal negative 1. So I'm going to go up here to negative 1 right here. And it's really hard to do, but I'm going to draw an open circle. Okay. And what I've done, okay, is I'm indicating that everywhere I don't equal negative 1, this graph works. Okay. It tells me that for x equals negative 1, the answer is automatically negative 4. So if I go down here to 1, 2, 3, 4, this will be the only graph that'll be like this in terms of if you've got these equal signs, okay? Because Desmos doesn't like the equal signs. So I'm glad this came up so we could talk our way through this. Okay, so here was our picture, okay, that we can't exactly replicate on Desmos, okay? But it still gets the job done, okay? Because there's a hole right here. You have to imagine there's a hole where x does not equal negative 1, okay? So because when x equals negative 1, it's down here at negative 4, okay? All right, so I've done all that to make the picture, but honestly, it's saying find f of 1. It wants to know what happens when x equals 1, okay? Well, when x equals 1, I just go over here and I go down to my graph, okay? Now, some of you, if you remember yesterday, we were drawing, okay? We're actually trying to draw on Delta Math. Well, you don't have to do that. If you go right here, x equals 1. There you go. And look what happens right there. Okay? Or you can do what we were doing yesterday with the table. Convert it to a table. What happens when x equals 1? It's -6. Okay? So you've got those options. Okay? Now, I know for some of you, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I did not understand that one. It's okay. Okay? This part right here, this graphing part, that will get better as we progress through the lesson. Okay? All right. So my answer is -6. Submit my answer. Yes. Good. All right. So let's erase here what we've done. So that way we can do a new problem. Okay. And you can see for f of 1, okay, see the explanation he gives up here? 1 is up here because it's telling you x does not equals 1, but as long as it equals anything else, you can pick anything else. Okay. All right, so f of x equals 4 and -2. All right, so this one I'm not even going to graph. It's saying find f of -1. Well, x does not equal -1. X equals -1. It tells you right here, x equals -1. There's my answer. -2. Submit my answer. Yes. All right, and there's your graph. And that graph is what I'm having a hard time replicating on Desmos, okay? But it gets better, I promise. All right, new problem. Okay, perfect. Okay, all right, so x plus 1, oops, plus 1, I think I have to do that semicolon. All right, 0 less than or equal to x less than 3, close the parentheses. Did that work? There it goes. Okay. All right. So notice what I typed in. I typed in x plus 1, and then curly brackets, I put in the 0 less than or equal to x less than 3. Okay. Now I'm going to do a new line. Negative x plus 11, curly brackets, 3 less than x less than or equal to 6, curly brackets. Okay. So there's my picture. Honestly, I wish this had been the first example, but I'm glad we did the first example. Okay, now let's talk about what's happening on Desmos that you cannot see right away. Okay, so if I put my cursor on the red one, okay, so if I go down here, now look what happens when I go to the other end. Okay, I have an open circle right there. Now Desmos didn't pop that up. It's because I'm holding my mouse and I'm moving along. Okay, and then if I go here, notice it's solid. Oh, it's undefined. Okay, which that's fine. We got open circles on both ends. And if I go here, solid circle. Okay, so it's saying find f of 3. Okay, so now if you want to, x equals 3. Okay, now this line is an addition. So just, I'm going to take it off for a moment. Okay, I'm adding this to the picture. It's not part of the picture, but it's helping me, find intersection points. Okay, well, when I go here, okay, and it crosses, okay, well, see, I'm on the green line, but if I go to the red line, it's undefined. So that means that green line and that red line do not cross, okay, because the red one had a hole right there. All right, so now when I go on the blue one, okay, that blue and green line, again, does not cross because there was a hole right there, okay? So nothing exists when x equals 3. So it's undefined, okay? And you can see right here, it says x is less than 3. It doesn't say less than or equal to. Same thing here. All right, it says x is greater than, because I'm reading it the correct way. It doesn't say greater than or equal to, okay? So that's why at 3, there's this hole. So you can see the hole there and the hole there. That means nothing exists, okay? The picture doesn't exist, so my answer is undefined, okay? So submit, yes, submit, yes. Okay, so Delta Math is being weird, okay? There we go. Okay, so it just didn't show you the submit, but it would have shown you that the answer was undefined. Okay, all right, so let's delete here. Okay, now let's type in this. It's going to be a little bit of a mess. Okay, so 6 parentheses x less than or equal to -4, close my parentheses, so there it is, -3x minus 6, so -4 less than x less than 0. Close my brackets. Oh, my less than's didn't come through. Less than. Less than. Okay. And then negative x minus 4. And don't stare at your graph and think, oh no, you got to finish typing everything in. X greater than or equal to 0. All right, close my curly brackets. Okay. So here's my picture. So there's the purple piece. Okay. Now, even though here at the purple, okay, see how it closed? Now, if I click on, I'm going to change the color on that one. Change it to green. Okay, now I take the green one. Okay, the green one, there was a hole there, but the purple one fills it in. Okay, so that means something exists right there. Okay, because the purple one fills in the hole that's at the green one. Okay, all right, now I go down here just to see what's happening. Okay, there's a hole, there's no hole right there. But then if I take the red one, okay. Oh, did I not type something in right? Oh, okay. So let me see here. I get to 0. Oh, there it is. Undefined. So that's an open circle. I got a little worried there that we had 2 closed circles. This one's closed. Okay. All right. So there it is. So saying find f of 0. All right, now if you want to type in x equals 0, because you haven't already figured out the answer. Okay, so if I click right here, okay, I mean it crosses right there, but remember at the green one, it was an open circle, okay? And then on the red one, okay, it was closed. So I'm going to take this back off, okay? So you can see I'm looking right here at the y-axis, okay, because that's where x equals 0. So there's nothing here, there's a hole. So I go to the other function that's also here, and there's not a hole, okay? So that tells me my answer. So right there, 0 equals -4, okay? So let me do that again. So on the green one, because if I draw the line again, x equals 0. So I need to be a different color. So not purple, blue. Okay, so my blue line, okay, and if I zoom in, my blue line does not, it doesn't intersect, but it joins together at the red line. My blue line also joins together with the green line, but we have to find out where the hole is because I don't have 2 values happening at the same time, okay? So if I take this out, pretend it's still there, okay? See how that's a solid circle? And then this green one, that's an open circle. You have to take the solid circle. So if I go back up here, that solid circle occurs at 0, -4. My answer then is the y value, which is -4. Okay, so I submit. Yes. I don't know why my Delta math is acting up, but it is. Okay. All right. So let's do a new problem. I promise you the answer is correct. Lord. Yes, Delta math is not happy right now. Okay. All right. So same thing here. This is another one of those problems where, okay, it says for x does not equal -5. So that means any number except -5. So if they give me, pretend I'm not looking here at the moment. Okay, so if they give me any number except -5, I'm going to use this function to evaluate. Okay, if they give me x equals -5, okay, the answer is just going to automatically be 0. All right, so it says find f of 1. So if I type it in, so negative parentheses x plus 2 parentheses squared plus 8. Okay, let's click home. All right, so there's my picture. But at x equals -5, so right here at x equals -5, okay, there's a hole. So if I draw x equals -5. Okay, so right here, this point, -5, -1, doesn't exist. Okay, there's a hole right there. Let me try one more time, typing that in. X, see, I don't think I can. Functions, miscellaneous. Yeah, see, I can't even type in the does not equal to. Okay, so I just have to deal with, okay, what it is. I could break it apart into two functions, but let's not do that. Okay, but there's a hole right there. So take that off. Okay. All right. And then for 0, that's 0 would be the answer if it was -5. All right, but it's saying find f of 1. So if I remind you what we did yesterday, if I convert it to a table, so what happens when f is 1? The answer is -1. So I go over here, -1, submit my answer, yes. Okay. All right, so I hope I did a good job of this. I don't feel like I did, but if you need any help, let me know. It's more learning about how to type it in on Desmos, and then you can convert to tables, or you can draw vertical lines, or you could just go back and do it by hand. If you say, Ms. Barville, I just did not like Desmos, okay? You can go back and do it this way for all the problems that you've been assigned, okay? All right. Good luck, you guys, and happy Monday.